and desert and heat and racist.
So Mad Max is a documentary. They just, it was all filmed on GoPros. It's a real thing.
And Crocodile Hunter is a fictional story.
Yeah.
And it ended very similarly to the Sarah Jane Adventures, with the greatest hero dying.
Yeah.
Off screen.
Yep. Off screen. Hear that? I'm not sure if you can pick that up, but that's apropos of the jokes we were just making.
I just got a message in my group chat saying, "Where's the cock sauce?" It was in relation to a picture of Gordon Ramsay.
I see. There we are.
We were watching YouTube poops on our holiday. The Haunting of Villa Diodati.
Yes.
Series 12, Episode 8.
Yes.
Patreon.com/Genesis of Androzani. The $1 tier, Air from My Lungs, gives you exclusive access. It's very quiet in here.
Yeah.
It's different. The $5 tier, the Timey-Wimey tier, gets you exclusive access and early access. And the $10 tier, the Master tier, gets you a request video for us to do, which Jake still hasn't done yet. He hasn't been replying to any of my messages lately. It's like the runaway bride just ran away forever.
Yep. See you next year, Jake.
Expect him to be wearing a wedding dress in the next video. You got something against that?
Not at all. I feel like you'd have trouble convincing him to do that.
I don't see how. What would be the issue?
You got to get the right size, man.
No, he is very skinny, isn't he?
Yeah. It's got to, you got to go to a tailor.
Donna
and it's
doesn't
really
like
expensive.
skinny boys, does she?
No. You hug him and you get a paper cut. Reference.
Oh, yeah. Twitter.com/Giandrozani is dangerous. Very, very dangerous. But I highly recommend it anyway. Fuck Bolstrick. Your initial thoughts on the haunting... Oh, actually, no, hang on. Wait. I had this planned out in my head. Hang on, let me remember which way around I have it. Oh, yeah, okay. So I'm going to go first this time.
Okay.
So that... Because I want it to be balanced. Because I want you to go first for the next one.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I'm not sure what I'll do for the finale. I can't remember.
We'll just speak at the same time.
Yeah, probably. But I'll go first this time.
Yeah.
And then you go first for episode 9.
Okay.
Right. So I'm going to go first. My initial thoughts on The Haunting of Villa Diodati.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was fantastic. This is probably my favourite episode from Jodie's era. If we count it as a self-contained story, it's my favourite from Jodie's era. It's got so many things about it that I really like. Yes, a lot of them are borrowed from other episodes, like Castrovalva and Ghostlight and Utopia, and well, I don't know whatever Cyberman story is most applicable.
Frankenstein.
Yes, Frankenstein too. It is a very borrowed story. Oh, and Fires of Pompeii and the Waters of Mars as well. It's a lot of very borrowed elements, which seems to be the theme of this series. There's a lot of borrowed elements, especially from Series 3, sort of compiled into one big constructive thing that Chibnall's doing. It is a lot of borrowed elements, but I thought most of them worked very well. It was gothic. It was a story based around Frankenstein about the Cybermen, which is very apt. Something that we haven't seen yet that had to be done at some point.
I think there is a Big Finish that does it.
Yes, I was also going to say, not only does it borrow from all of those, but it also completely borrows from the Silver Turk, which I haven't heard, but I know is very similar to this.
I think he meets Mary Shelley in it. And
it's kind of in the same vein as, like, Spare Parts of World Enough in Time or Jubilee and Dalek. They're very similar, and also borrows all elements from all those other things. So yeah. This is a compilation of Doctor Who's sort of greatest hits in one episode. But I really liked it. I thought the atmosphere, the direction was superb. I thought the way the story unfolded like a novel was fantastic. It was a bit like a small little novel that you get. I suppose it's called a novella.
Mm-hmm.
It was dark at points, not just in the lighting, but in the way the story was told. I also felt that a story like this actually suited Jodie's Doctor for the kind of, her being all puzzled gets quite annoying with other stories, but with this one, where it's actually puzzling, it was convincing. This one actually had some nice dialogue. I would say this and Praxis probably had the best and most witty dialogue and the funniest moments of the whole series. And the lone Cyberman turned up, and that was fantastic. And it has probably my favourite Jodie scene in the whole show in it as well. And overall, it was just a very good episode.
Mm-hmm. I pretty much universally agree. The atmosphere particularly was something that I just adored, because it was something like it had a mission statement, and it's fully succeeded at creating that. It felt gothic, but also, there was an element of tongue-in-cheek, but not so much that it took away from when it was trying to be more tense or more atmospheric in a darker way. And the way it was unfolding it for the first half as a mystery, then monster reveal, and then how the monster reveal tied into the themes of the episode, how it tied into the supporting cast of the episode, how it tied into, how it interacted with our leads, and all of that, and how everything was set up and how everything unraveled. Really imaginative, really atmospheric, great score, great sound design. And yeah, I really dug it. I really, really liked it.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Alright then. Let's begin with the Doctor. You go first.
Like you said, I thought she was really, really strong in this episode. And the fact that it started with her like, let's go meet Lord Byron, Percy Shelley, Mary Shelley, and, these poets and writers. Let's go and meet them, these brilliant minds. It, again, reminded me of Shakespeare Code.
Yes.
Where, he's one of the most brilliant minds. Shut your big fat mouths! It had that kind of thing, but obviously it wasn't just exactly the same. But the way that she's like, here we go, and then they're all drinking and lazing around on the floor. Just having a party, basically.
I love that little scene where they all learn to dance.
Yes, yeah.
Cool. And, hang on, I can't say it yet. It's to do with another character, I'll leave it till later.
But scenes like that as well, where there was just a whole bunch of, this goes into the direction and the writing, but all the character work was interspersed, that we got an idea of.
It was very subtle as well. This was one of the more subtle episodes of Chibnall's era, which is unlike him, I would say.
Yeah. It could have very easily been quite clunky in the way the exposition was delivered, but because there was that dance scene and they're like getting to know their dance partners and talk about the room, and it felt like, it wasn't just, hi, I'm such and such, nice to meet you, who's your friend? And it was just that. There was a little bit more going on.
It was done in a very Doctor Who-y way.
Yeah.
This episode was, from start to finish, exactly what Doctor Who is.
And I loved like little moments throughout the whole thing that I really adored. Particularly, I'm getting off topic of the Doctor, but just one thing I want to mention is that cold open, setting the mood and everything, and then there's someone at the door, they open it, and then there they are, they scream, lightning crack, Doctor Who.
Though the one thing that's missing, though, is the sting. They don't have the sting, and they need to have the sting.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, but the Doctor's really strong in this episode, and yes, she was authoritative at the end. She was like, no, her speech about it not being a flat team structure, I'm like, there she is! That's the Doctor!
It's her best scene for me. It's her best scene from her run.
The fact that the whole fam thing was genuine, but for the Doctor it was a little bit forced and strained. Yeah. She does adore these people, but she does view herself above them, because she, in many respects, is.
And I like the fact that moment wasn't forced into the story to create tension. It was made out of a situation that was quite similar to things we've gotten before, like in Fires of Pompeii and Waters of Mars, where they are having to choose between two different outcomes. Funnily enough, with Fires of Pompeii, it's something in the past that you knew was fixed, that you had to do. And then with the Waters of Mars, it was something in the future that you didn't know the outcome of, which created that massive tension, which is why it's brilliant. With this, you got a combination of something in the past affecting the future.
Yep, and then also, Percy Shelley has to survive beyond tonight because historically we know.
Yes.
He doesn't.
But in doing so, you're giving the lone Cyberman access to an army that could kill everyone.
Exactly.
And basically does.
And has been warned about.
Yeah.
By Jack Pryor. How he knew about them. But anyway,
we might find out.
We might not. Who knows? But that scene at the end where the Doctor, put her foot down and said, "No, you listen to me. I've had to make these decisions thousands of times before." Again, it all stems back to
and there was a reference to Bill as well when she says, "I'm not letting this happen to any of you."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was. It was just really refreshing to see that side of the Doctor, where it started as a usual adventurous self, which is written in a really fun way.
Also, different costume in this.
Yes,
she had a historical costume, which I was very happy about. Was that button up one with, and honestly, if that was her actual costume, I think I'd be happy.
Yeah, I liked it. Her costume was cool, but the performance was really good, and the way it naturally built up, as well as how it has been set up throughout the series to reach this point where she says, "This is not a flat team structure. Yeah. This is this."
And also, another thing I really liked was there was two things. Firstly, was the way that she was figuring out the puzzle of the sort of revolving rooms reminded me of the God Complex with Matt Smith.
Yes.
There was that kind of performance. And the other thing was the very hilarious little side plot of, I can't remember the character's name, but the guy who's flirting with her.
Lord Byron, yeah.
That was refreshing to see, because we haven't, apart from one small line in Arachnids in the UK, we haven't gotten any reference to anyone potentially like any kind of someone fancying the Doctor yet, and because we got it here, and it was really funny. I quite enjoyed those scenes. I thought they were really funny.
Absolutely, and it sort of suited the sort of reputation that Lord Byron has as a historical figure. He's kind of a bit of a...
It was a bit like Ryan and King James, except it was with the Doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. The Doctor, really strong in this episode, bounced off the supporting cast really well, was really, I enjoyed her trying to calm everyone down whilst figuring out the revolving ghosty rooms, then her taking power at the end. It felt natural throughout the 3 acts of this episode, but also in the larger story, it felt very satisfying for her to reach that point.
I just love how strong she felt when she was against the lone Cyberman, and how she, this showing how different she is now compared to where she was in Series 11. She's a much more intimidating character now than she was then. Absolutely.
I really liked this, just the scene when the Cyberman shows up, and whenever the Doctor was confronting him, it felt so, it felt natural. It felt like that's the Doctor. Sorry, excuse me. I might have to cut this out. That's all good. But it felt so natural, and it felt like the Doctor. It felt very much like this is Doctor Who, and all the character beats felt earned for me. I didn't sort of get thrown by any of them. I was like, this is fun. I'm along with the story, and when it got to its more dramatic points, I'm like, this is good. I like this.
Yeah, very solid from her.
Yep.
All around. Don't actually remember, was the sonic screwdriver used that much this time? I can't remember if it...
I think there was a part where she scanned the Cyberman just to be like, what are you? Because he was not complete. I think. Yeah. If I'm remembering correctly.
Also, I just want to, before I forget, I just want to comment on the whole concept of when you're inside a house that has different dimensions within itself, where like you think there are ghosts pushing things over, but it's actually just another dimension that can't see you.
Yeah.
That's something that I've seen done before, but it's just one of those, it's like the reverse case of like cloning.
Yeah.
Because you know how I get a bit nitpicky with cloning stories, especially bland ones like Android Invasion or the Flesh Two-Parter. With something like this is the reverse. Whenever this kind of thing is done in a story, I usually love it.
Yeah.
Like when you're in a location that has the same, it has the same square space, but because there's two different dimensions crossing over with each other, they interact.
Yeah, there's an overlay. There's a
fucking great. Love that stuff.
Well, there's a tangibility to the alternate universe being, or alternate space crossing over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Who's the next character?
Okay, I'll have a look. But overall, I really like the Doctor in this. I thought the sort of second half, I think Jodie's best scene was probably the one about the team structure.
Yeah.
And the moral dilemma. It was fantastic. Absolutely 100%. Fantastic. The next character is Yaz.
I liked her in this episode. Obviously, it wasn't an episode about her or anything, but she worked with the supporting cast well when they were split into the Scooby-Doo groups. She worked well with the people she was with.
She has some nice little small scenes in this, I think.
Yeah, and the fact that she was the one, again, being a police officer who was like, "No, doctor, I was there when Jack said don't do this, so you don't do this." She was the one who said, "Look, I respect you, I love you, but stop." That was really good. And again, felt natural based on how the series has been building up to this point and how the episode built up to that as well.
Yes. There was I can't remember exactly because it's been a while since I've seen the episode, but there was a scene where she was sitting down with another character. I can't remember what it was about, but I remember really liking that scene. I don't know what it was though.
Yeah, I think she was with not Mary Shelley, but the other woman, the woman with the child.
Possibly, yeah. Yes. The next character after that is Graham, who in this episode was seeing things that no one else is seeing.
He's just sort of fucking ghost, which is a great. It's such a little twist.
This was something that happened in Can You Hear Me as well, though.
Yeah, that's right.
And at the end of this episode, it was left open-ended, and it's interesting.
Yeah. Because I believe he's leaving after Ascension of the Daleks or whatever. Revolution of the Daleks.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something that they'll be bringing back there, or maybe it was just a little gag, a little running gag, the fact that he just happens to see ghosts.
Yeah. That was weird. But I remember Graham having some quite funny lines in this. And there was one point where the kid from Mr. Bean's Holiday and Years challenged Ryan to a fight.
Yeah.
And Ryan called on Graham to back him up. And Graham's like, "I'm not helping you with that."
Yeah, that's your problem.
Yeah.
The banter between Graham and Ryan felt really natural this episode, and it was really, it was funny, and he fit right in that Victorian uniform, or actually probably more Edwardian. But it was...
Oh, the costumes in this episode were amazing.
Costumes, production design, fantastic.
Yeah.
And the whole sequence where he was supposed to be guarding the guy, and the guy just walked through the wall, and Graham's like, "What? What am I supposed to do?" And then he tries to follow him, and it just, cycles back, like Pac-Man, go one way, come in the other.
Or like Castrovalva.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just...
Except that actually has a plot.
But no, I really like Graham in this episode. Again, he was just more comic relief in this. There wasn't particularly a heavy part for him to do.
His comedy was actually quite solid, which does make up for that. Because when he uses comic relief and it's not effective, that's when he's wasted.
Yeah, but it worked really well in this, I thought at least. The comedy worked for me, especially with his... Like that scene where the guy challenges Ryan to a duel. That was all very funny.
And a nice surprise for me in this episode was Ryan himself, who quite subtly... They used his dyspraxia as a storyline in this episode without telling you that it was his dyspraxia. Firstly was the dancing.
Yes.
And the second most important one was when he was playing the piano, and he referenced this is something that Grace had been teaching him.
Yeah.
But he could never do it because he had dyspraxia.
Yeah.
And the fact that he'd almost got it right, it shows that he was starting to sort of get stronger with his dyspraxia problems. And then of course you get the comedy bit where the kid from Mr. Bean's Holiday and Years challenges him to a fight, and that was really funny. And also when when he challenges the Doctor in the moral dilemma scene as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really good. Is this sorry, I might be confusing it with another episode, but is this the one where Ryan puts up his fist when someone gets close to him? When the guy gets close to him?
I think so.
I think this was the one where Ryan was ready to square him,
Yeah, I think it was this one.
Where he'd dick him in the face. That was a really funny moment.
Yeah. But yeah, and also, like I said, he was the companion that was questioning the Doctor during the moral dilemma, basically saying, "Well, why aren't we saving this man?
Yeah.
I've seen you and what your morals are, and we've supported you all this way, but why are you suddenly deciding not to save this man's life? Or sorry, not to save everyone else's life? I mean, he was saying, why would you
sacrifice the
future for just one person?" And then obviously the Doctor explained to him how it all works and how if this man didn't write his stories, you might not be alive.
Exactly. And which is a great meta comment, because if Percy Shelley and Mary Shelley did not do their things, especially Mary Shelley, if she was not inspired to write Frankenstein, which was basically the birth of modern science fiction, then many years down the line, we may never have got Doctor Who, which is such a lovely little meta-commentary on that.
Yes.
So it works textually and metatextually, which I really, really enjoyed.
Yes. Yep, that was fantastic. So, moving past the TARDIS team, we have Lord Byron.
He was great. Also, I believe Lord Byron is the father of Ada Lovelace.
Oh.
I think so. Because remember, there's a line where they reference Lord Byron in Spyfall Part 2.
Oh.
But I'm pretty sure in real... Or maybe not daughter, maybe uncle. There is some direct relation between Ada Lovelace and Lord Byron. I think it's father and daughter. Correct me if I'm wrong. But so there was a nice little bit of synergy there.
Yes.
But as a character, he was really... he was like King James last season. He wasn't particularly hefty as a historical figure.
Well, the difference is King James was a show stealer, whereas Lord Byron fit in.
Yeah, he was definitely part of the unit. And he was very, very funny.
Yeah, I'm just going to look up a picture of him just to remember which one it was, because there was quite a lot of characters. Yeah. Oh shit, it's going to come show me a painting of the real one. That's what
But yeah, no, the way he was sort of... Also, that poem...
Oh, yes. Lord Byron was the one flirting with the Doctor.
Yes, the poem...
Yeah, he was great, yeah.
And the poem he read at the end was a real poem, where I think the last line is, "She is the sky." And the fact that he was talking about... They reworked a real poem that he wrote to be about the Doctor. I really quite enjoy.
Yeah, it's a bit like how the flower painting Vincent van Gogh did was for Amy.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's reworking little pieces of artistic history and contextualizing them around the Doctor, which is very, it's stupid, but it's very enjoyable. And it was a nice little cap to this episode. Yeah. That little sort of talking about how the Doctor affects people.
The Doctor's been part of history all the time.
Yeah, exactly. They are Merlin, apparently.
I watched Battlefield recently. I was like, oh, okay. Though, having said that, after this series, that makes sense. But we'll get to that later. Maybe he really is Merlin.
Could very well be.
But yeah, Lord Byron was great.
Yep.
Loved his costume.
Yeah, he wasn't, like, the heart of this episode was definitely the Shelleys, more specifically, Mary Shelley.
Yeah.
Yes,
but
Mary
Lord Byron's
Byron,
next.
Yeah, but Lord Byron, especially the nights that they were writing Frankenstein, as she wrote Frankenstein, Lord Byron was present, I believe. So he would have had to, if he wasn't there, then they would have to write around that, which would have been weird. But they already did that with Percy Shelley not being there, which is like, this is out of place. This isn't how it's supposed to be, because things are going wrong.
Yes. Yep. Then we have Mary Shelley herself.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Loved her. Really cool. She felt human. Her intelligence was shown without sacrificing her being able to be vulnerable, being able to be a human being, which I really liked.
Did Mary Shelley have the baby, or no? Was it the other person?
It was the other person. Mary Shelley was the one with the two girls.
Yeah. I know who Mary Shelley is. I just can't remember if she was on the baby.
No, I think it was the other woman. Victoria, was it? I can't remember. We'll get to it. But Mary Shelley was really good.
No, the other one was called Claire Claremont.
Claire Claremont. I should, being someone who has studied Mary Shelley and Lord Byron and all this, I should know who Claire Claremont is.
But, Mary Shelley was great. Again, it was that whole thing of having a historical figure that wrote things like Agatha Christie or Shakespeare or Charles Dickens. It was the same thing.
And how that sort of tied into when she saw the lone Cyberman and that shot of when the lone Cyberman reaches his hand out and she looks down and sees the stitches across his wrist and and it's like pale pale skin, black nails, and it's like that's how the monster is described in the book.
Yeah, she was really good. Though I will say, she's not quite on par with Nikola Tesla, but that's probably because the episode didn't quite focus around her as much.
No, it was much more of an ensemble piece, whereas Nikola Tesla, he was a focal point of that episode.
And that's a high bar anyway.
Yeah. But she was really strong in it, and she felt real.
I liked how different this episode took the approach of, rather than having the entire thing focused around the life of one person, it integrated historical figures into the plot as a part of it.
Yes, exactly. Like one particular night, an important night in their lives, like how in Unicorn and the Wasp, they say, why did Agatha Christie go missing for a fortnight? Oh, because she took a trip in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And that's...
Yeah, she was good. Though, obviously not a massive role, but I liked the role she did play.
And her role at the end when she was talking to the Lone Sidemen, and how it looked like it was going to go one way, then the Lone Sideman was like, no, fuck them kids. And, went real grim. Which made him a great antagonist for... Like, every character in the story...
Alright, well, seeing as you're going on about him, we'll talk about Ashad, a.k.a. the Lone Sideman.
In this episode, he's fucking great.
Yes.
He's so... And I love his design.
Yeah.
I just...
I mean, it is the Frankenstein Sideman, isn't it?
Yeah. It's so... Like, the unfinished arm with the sort of the plastic wrap, and then the stitches, and the black fingernails, and the exposed face where you can just see this dead eye... in the cracked mask and everything. I love the design. They clearly had a field day with it.
Yeah. Also, I like the fact that we have a story about someone writing Frankenstein, where there's a monster that's based on Frankenstein, and in the TV movie, Frankenstein, film is in it.
And then the doctor raises from the slab, like in the movie.
Which means that we are not too dissimilar from the Cybermen.
Yes.
And not just humans, but Time Lords. But we'll get onto that later in a different video.
Time Lord Cybermen. What a concept. But no, he's really cool. And what I love about it is he's such a good antagonist for both the Doctor and Mary Shelley.
Yes.
Because Mary Shelley's all about, the hope and humanity. And the Cyberman's like, fuck your humanity, I don't care.
Yes.
I'm a one-track mind. I've got this power and I've got a goal.
And also, it does not make the same mistakes. In terms of upgrading, it does not make the same mistakes that the Moffat Cybermen stories did. Like it's Nightmare in Silver, for example. It doesn't go over the top thinking, oh, upgrade means make it like Iron Man and make them fly and make them run. It's like, no, that's not what the Cybermen are. The tone surrounding the Cybermen is of, it's a zombie. It's cold. It's a cold zombie. It's a killer. It's not a fucking robot.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the way he's shot in this episode. Like there's the scene when he first sort of arrives and we see his silhouette and he's almost all in shadow, and the way he moves, and it's a little bit more mobile than a typical Cyberman, but it's
the way he materializes reminds me of like sci-fi video games a bit.
Yeah.
It was great.
And I'm unless I'm misremembering, there's a scene when he's by the window where the doctor's like, you can't shoot me. And he goes up to the window and gets struck by lightning, again evoking Frankenstein and the birth of the monster. And he's like powering up, but the way that looked when like all the lights up his spine turned on, and and he looked more alive, and there was that scene where he found the crying baby.
Yeah.
It was so tense because it's like... Because I legitimately bought into the fact... I forgot for a second that I was watching Doctor Who. I was like, he's going to kill that baby.
Yeah.
Which is, great on the case of the writing. It shows how into it I was, that I completely forgot the fact that this was Doctor Who. This was a family show, and they wouldn't murder a baby on screen. But the fact that...
that they teased that they did.
Yeah, and the fact that for a second I was like, this is happening, and I was just so into it, and I bought into his character as this aggressively callous. Because he is still a Cyberman. He's very cold, but he's insane because his programming
I really like the way Ashad was characterized in the fact that he's a half-converted Cyberman.
Yeah.
And executed better than Christian did in Torchwood the first time around.
Yeah. But in this case, it's not like... He is suffering, but all the anger from the human is the thing that comes forth. And he's so angry, he's so bitter, but the callous part of the Cyberman is, fighting that as well. So he's just this evil, vicious, he's just this force of nature. Except he's not a force of nature because he's manufactured. But
there was one thing I thought was weird about Lone Cyberman. Now it's such a small little nitpick, but why does he have black nail polish?
I assume that it was just like there was dead blood vessels under his nails.
Right. Okay. Ooh.
Like that popped and he was like bleeding and it was all just dry blood under there.
Okay, that's Jesus. Well, it just looked like black nail polish.
It did.
Probably was.
Yeah. But in terms of what they were evoking, I don't think, he would care to make himself goth.
That would be very unsubtle.
Granted, he's not a particularly subtle design, but I love the way it is. It works for the character.
I got a feeling Jake would like this Cyberman.
Yeah, because he's fucked. Not the Cyberman, not Jake.
Wow, but as in the fact that he was a dangerous Cyberman and not limited by technology.
Yeah, exactly. He's new. He's fresh.
Jake's still wrong about the Cyberman, though, isn't he?
He's very wrong. But he's still he's a fresh take on this old character, and using the context of the night that Frankenstein was written, and how that sort of that knock-on effect, that butterfly effect of how he subconsciously inspired the look of the monster. Except Mary Shelley writing the monster made him compassionate, because the monster does horrific things in the book, but when you read the book, it's angled that you're supposed to sympathize with the creature because he didn't know any better and he was just abandoned. He was brought forth and then abandoned in the world and just was like, what the fuck am I? I'm an abomination against nature. It's a great story. If you haven't read Frankenstein, that's so good.
How dare Jake blaspheme the Nokia Cyberman?
Unbelievable.
Though, to be fair, he did like them in the finale, so
that's true.
At least there was that.
That is true.
Daleks have no concept of elegance. This is obvious.
Sassy Cyberman.
But I love I just love the fact that it's not actually the people inside being sassy. It's the fact that their computer generating is answering what they're saying with accuracy.
Yeah, it's true. They don't have elegance.
Oh dear.
And then the Daleks'
it's
personalities
like the Cybermen's sassiness comes from the same sassiness you get from a GPS.
Exactly, and what you put onto it, the way you hear it. But the Daleks are just being generally bastards when they say this is pest control. Anyway,
beautiful story. Anyway, Claire Claremont.
She's really good. She's quite a vulnerable character.
Oh yeah, baby.
Exactly. I need to reread about this because there is some significance there. But the fact that she was a young mother and alone.
Yes.
It made her feel more vulnerable, which raised the stakes because she was a likable character and I believed her as a human being, which for me is a big part of me caring about side characters when they're in peril. Feeling tension is if they feel real, then I'm gonna feel real tension towards them.
I know it would break historical accuracy, but I kind of wish the side characters in this were in the next two episodes, rather than the ones we actually got.
Well, they can pop them right back where they left off.
Yeah, rather than the ones we actually got.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make any fucking sense because it's meant to be the humans at the end.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, just purely for wanting different side characters, I wish they were in it. But they weren't. But
yeah.
Anyway, we'll get to that later. But yeah, I really liked her. I thought she was good, and I obviously, like you said, vulnerable.
Also, sorry, this is something we can bring up later on. But the fact that if you brought Mary Shelley in forward, she had a shard to inspire the monster. She can meet the master to inspire the doctor. Anyway, sorry. Continue. Finish what you were saying.
But yeah, she was very vulnerable, and the baby turning into a skeleton scene was fantastic.
Yeah. It was good. I felt the stakes around her character, and I bought into her character, and her scenes where she's opening herself up. it didn't feel like it was slowing the pace at all. All the pieces felt like they were part of the puzzle to move the story along at a good pace, and it was a fun pace. And it wasn't kind of one where it was sort of like, this is start, stop, where, like some episodes in the past, like Praxeus, you know, there are moments where it's like really good momentum and then it slows down, then really good momentum and then it slows down and then it sort of peters out. Whereas this was like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, zoom, let's, you know, go straight through them.
Yeah, I mean, from top to bottom, this was a bona fide Doctor Who story in every aspect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is refreshing to say about Chibnall's era.
It felt, it felt cozy. It felt like an episode that on a rainy Sunday afternoon I would happily sit down and watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come a long way since Series 11.
Exactly, because as you all know, Series 11 really wasn't, it's not a tone that sort of sits with me. It's not.
I haven't gone out of my way to rewatch any of them on purpose.
I haven't seen any of them since they were aired.
I have seen one since it aired because I had to.
Yeah.
Because I did a marathon with the lads, and we had to watch Iraqis in the UK because that was the one we chose for Jodie. And yeah, that's the only one. And that was.
Whereas this is one I really like, and there's an energy to it, and it just feels more alive for me, and it just works for me better because it's got more of the things I enjoy out of Doctor Who. I mean, you've probably figured by now, but I prefer pseudo-historical stories the most out of modern run Doctor Who in terms of singular non-finale.
There's plenty of good ones in Classic Who as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Time Meddler is a masterpiece.
Yes, but in New Who specifically, like I just get so much fun out of Girl in the Fireplace, even though, you know, technically I would say that one's more straight up sci-fi with the history in it.
Yeah.
But you know, I count it. And then Shakespeare Code.
Yeah. Obviously.
Unicorn and the Wasp.
Pfizer
Pompeii, Vincent and the Doctor. Rosa. In terms of like the episodes I enjoy. Obviously, Rosa is much harder to watch because it's much more serious. It's you know, it's much heftier than a lot of these others. Whereas this one does have.
I find Rosa a lot less memorable now in context of the show as a whole.
Yeah.
It was a lot more noticeable and like something I thought about a bit more when we were watching Series 11 on itself when it was new.
It definitely stands out from Series 11, but in terms of when you put it next to these other.
But then when I think about the show as a whole, I don't really care for it that much compared to the others.
No, like it's as I was saying, like my point being that pseudo-historicals are the ones I go to the most in terms of quick entertainment. You know, I want to go 45 minutes, I want to just watch a fun episode of Doctor Who. Usually I find that I end up watching these ones, or maybe Partners in Crime, because it's great.
It is great.
Because I don't do Smith and Jones, because if I watch Smith and Jones, then I end up watching the whole season of one go.
That happened to me recently.
Yep.
As you all saw on Twitter, I oh god, so I had a thing of like, because I binged a whole bunch of Classic Who.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not finished.
Yeah.
You know, I got to the end of Survival, I'm like, I'm not finished.
Yeah.
So I watched Aliens Land in World War 3. That was amazing. And then I was like, all right, I'll watch Daleks in Manhattan, and I watched that, and I was like, okay, awesome. I'll watch Lazarus Experiment, 42, Smith and Jones, Shakespeare Code, Gridlock, Human Nature, Family of Blood, and I watched Partners of Crime, Pfizer Pompeii, Planet of the Youth, Unicorn and the Wasp. I just basically went on a tear, and then I watched a bunch of Series 5. But I won't talk about that until we get to the series rankings because I got some things to say.
Ooh.
Anyway.
But yeah, no. I really liked this episode as a whole, and her character in it was really good.
Yes, and then we had John Pellegrini, who I believe was the character that was Mr. Bean Holiday Kid, and also from Years and Years.
Yes, yeah, he was. I mean, in terms of the drama of the story, he was nothing really more than cannon fodder in terms of, you know, weird thing happens to him, and he has some funny moments. But in that, it worked really well.
I've seen him in 3 things, and I loved him in all of them. This, funnily enough, was probably the one that he was the least prominent in. But I still liked this episode a lot. And he was in Mr. Bean's Holiday. And Years and Years, which you're going to be watching.
But yeah, no,
because I brought it on my hard drive today. Just for you.
Woo! But no, yeah,
cool, he was good. And I liked this little scrap with Ryan. That was funny.
Yeah, it was. Very funny.
Any other side characters we want to talk about?
The servants were quite good. They were sort of more typical kind of murder mystery horror kind of characters. They were archetypes more than characters, but they still worked and functioned really well in the narrative.
Yeah, and in regards to the plot, I think the only other thing to really talk about is obviously not going into detail, but because we're doing this in hindsight, this is kind of the utopia of the series a little bit. So how do you feel about this as a setup for the finale story?
As a setup, I think it's quite intriguing. He's got this power and he's just disappeared. Yeah. And the Doctor and the companions seem to be growing apart. Great setup for the final two. Yeah. And as a setup, I think it's really strong.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much what it needed to be. Yeah. I think they nailed it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because the series arc stuff didn't feel invasive. It just felt naturally part of the drama. Yes. And then beyond that, it was like, okay.
Well, one of the reasons for that, and one of the things that does interest me about Series 13, is that this episode was written by Maxine Alderton. It didn't credit Chris Chibnall, interestingly. Oh. Maxine Alderton apparently is one of the co-writers for Series 13.
Good. Yes. If this episode's any indicator, more please.
So she may obviously not be. She's not the boss. She's not a decision maker in this series or the show. However, I think it's plainly obvious that she knows what she's doing. She is, in my mind, what you would expect from a Doctor Who writer. Yes. Weirdly, her previous experience, I think it was just literally soap opera. I think she wrote like 40 episodes of Emmerdale or something, or EastEnders, one of those two. Yeah. And then she came out with this. And I think that comparatively to Chibnall's writing, her dialogue's a lot more natural. She's a lot more subtle with things that she injects in there, like the dyspraxia and all that. And she just feels a lot more like a Doctor Who writer to me than some of the others that they have.
Yeah, and also, this is purely personal and about this episode specifically, but I've always wanted to see a Mary Shelley / Frankenstein episode. And I love the Cybermen. Yes. They're my favourite Doctor Who monsters. Yes. And to have them brought together and for it to be a satisfying watch for sort of like a dream episode I've had since I was a kid. That's fantastic.
Funnily enough, I called this the utopia of this series. It's funny you talk about... You've talked to Will for about seeing Derek Jacobi as the Master. Yeah. Again, a dream come true for you.
Exactly, and it works really well.
Or like Shakespeare Code, seeing a William Shakespeare episode.
And it's really and that's really good as well. That's really strong.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought Maxine Alderton was fantastic, and I can't wait to see what she does next time.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely, 100% agree.
Yeah. Wouldn't even be. I mean, obviously, we need to see more of what she can do, like more versatility, but. If she was announced as the next showrunner, I wouldn't be worried.
No?
Because I think she has a very strong talent when it comes to her dialogue, her concepts, the way she paces episodes.
And she just gets Doctor Who, it seems. It just understands what makes the show so great and what you can do with it being what it is.
And the fact that Chibnall trusted her to write a very important part of her series without him having to dive in and credit himself. Obviously, it
feels like he literally said, "Look, when you're writing this episode, your villain is going to be a lone Cyberman, and we need the Cyberium, which is he probably described what the Cyberium is. Yeah, go ahead and see what you write." And
it's interesting that Chibnall wasn't credited for this, but he was credited for Praxeus. Yeah, that interests me a lot.
Yeah, Praxeus, I feel like there was some character moments which were Chibnall writing the arc for like Yaz and the Doctor.
I think the scene on the beach with Graham and what's his face.
Yeah. Stuff like, I mean, obviously,
either Adam or Jake. I can't remember. Who
obviously, only a fly on the wall and the actual writers will know. But this is just speculation. But that's kind of what it seems like happened.
Yes. And the direction was by Emma Sullivan, who I believe also did Can You Hear Me as well. Gothic. It was delicious. It was beautiful.
So good. It was the shot of the mansion on the hill and
another word to use is expensive. It looked very expensive.
And the way
and you know what? We talked when we did the Tooth and Claw review about how that managed to get away with looking much newer than its time. Yeah. Filmed in 2006, but Blu-ray transfer made it look at least 2010. Whereas something like this, with the modern technology we have, it uses what we have.
Yeah, and it just so rich. Every frame looks so thought out.
This is in my opinion, the best looking series of Doctor Who we've ever had.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, when you get episodes like this and Can You Hear Me, and even though I thought the tone was too deadpan, Spyfall does look very good, especially in the CGI point of view. Hell, even Orphan 55 looked good.
Yeah.
Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror was beautiful. Fugitive of the Dune, it was like Broadchurch, like with colours.
Yeah,
you know,
it was a colourful Broadchurch. Great way to sum up the whole.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, especially this episode.
Yeah.
The cinematography and the blocking and like just simple shots of them coming down
the CGI.
And yeah,
I think with shadows made it look a lot richer as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was going to bring up the fact that I think a lot of it was artificial, but the artificial candlelight.
Yes.
The orange, those dark, deep orange hues that illuminate people's faces, and when they're coming down the stairs, and how their costumes look, and how the shadows that are cast, and the fact that there are figures that you're seeing but you're not actually seeing, and the way that the way she made this deliberately confusing layout and repetitive nature not confusing.
Yes.
Well, so you still understood what was going on all through the visual storytelling, whilst it deliberately being misleading. And then once it all was revealed, it wasn't like, hang on, I have a question about XYZ. It was like, I get it, purely because of the way it was laid out and plotted.
Yes. And this episode is one of my favourite promotional images in the whole show I've ever seen. I think I probably used it for the thumbnail and probably use it again for this one. It's the shot of Jodie and the team, and I think maybe Mary Shelley's in it, looking out a window, but it's blue because of the light, and there's raindrops on the window.
Yes. And I just love the constant sound of rain throughout the episode. The sound of like the pitter-patter of the rain on the window.
Yeah, that was like ASMR for me.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Nothing like, we need rain in Auckland.
I don't think anyone watching knows what Auckland is.
It's
you know what?
What?
I found out something the other day.
What?
Jodie Whittaker's middle name is Auckland.
Whoa! Crazy.
Which is the city we live in.
Yeah. This massive, massive city. But yeah, no. It's good. Just the atmosphere. Again, I keep saying that word, but it's just so rich, and immediately from the get-go, it's like, aha. This feels right. For a Mary Shelley, Frankenstein-ish Cyberman. I mean, obviously we didn't know Cyberman at all. But even when the Cyberman showed up, it didn't feel jarring. I was like, yes, this is great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the entrance that it had was a lot different to what we'd had before.
Yeah.
Because, like, in Rise of the Cybermen, they break through the windows and go, delete! Like, it's a very grand entrance. With Nightmare in Silver, there was no entrance at all. But with this one, it was in the distance, and it took its time getting out. It was building and building and building.
Yeah. It was just...
When the action scenes in this with the Cybermen felt like I was watching an actual film.
The way he was shot and the way he was made to look huge. Like if he got his hands on you, he could just rip you in half. And you felt that size, you felt that weight. And just everything was so good, meticulous.
Yes, it was.
I don't have a single fault I can think of in the direction.
Oh, hell no. The direction was amazing. I mean, we haven't really mentioned many faults at all so far.
No.
I suppose the only thing I could think of was it's something that we've been saying in a lot of the episodes, but maybe not as much this time, is that maybe you could have had a bit more time. Maybe you could have fleshed out some of the side characters a bit more.
You could have.
It's not as obvious. It's not as obvious to do that as something like Can You Hear Me or Orphan 55. But you could have.
Like, you could have had 15 minutes at the beginning, or, whatever, if it was a two-parter or whatever. But if you split it out to, like, just over an hour,
you
could have 10 minutes at the beginning where it's just the side characters, and then they hear a knock at the door, and then, aha, the story starts.
Well, that sounds like the Crimson Horror. I remember that one. You don't see the Doctor until, like, way into
almost halfway through the episode, I think.
Yeah. That's a weird episode.
I don't know how I feel about that one. But in terms of this episode, like... little things like that where it's just a little bit more fleshing out. But even then, when the characters are on screen, they're so well defined and fit their roles so well and fit into the story. Even Percy Shelley, who we only get briefly at the end, like, we get who he is even though he's he's terrified and everything.
Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, the scene where it's Percy Shelley who sees his death, right?
Yeah.
Where he drowns.
Yes.
And the way that was directed was horrifying.
Yeah.
It was great, just like seeing his hand underwater and then just die. Oh.
Remind me of The Deadly Assassin.
Fuck Mary Whitehouse.
But no, it was it was
Oh, now
so
I'm getting
good.
flashbacks to The Deadly
Yeah.
Assassin. Oh. There's that scene where the doctor has to like take that stick out of his leg.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so good, so good. I mean, there's little flaws where things, but even here nothing felt underdeveloped to me. Nothing felt really undercooked.
Yeah, the only thing is that I suppose on a personal level, there's other episodes that hit harder. They aim higher. They do more with the characters, I suppose.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
No, it absolutely
Yeah.
does. But in this case, for me, because I love Mary Shelley as a historical figure, I adore Frankenstein. I performed in it live as the Doctor, and it's not the Doctor, but Doctor is alive, even though it's, whatever.
He's alive.
Alive. It's Frankenstein.
Did they ever release a soundtrack for the TV movie?
Not that I'm aware of.
I want the score that plays during the regeneration scene.
That's so good. What I love about the TV movie is, even though it's set in 1999 San Francisco, it's fucking gothic.
Yeah.
It's proper gothic.
And if someone had the budget to remaster the CGI, because the original cuts, the first tapes that were filmed were done on film.
Yeah.
You could turn it into a
proper
like a 4K production.
If only.
That's the only reason they can't do those, because of the jizz snake.
and also because I think there's like a copyright thing.
Oh,
the BBC
yeah.
can.
That's why we haven't gotten Grace Holloway on Big Finish.
I know. She's so good. I love Grace.
But I think where I notice, like, because when people chuck on the TV movie by itself, like, they obviously it's its own thing. But where I notice the production values of it the most is when you go on YouTube and you watch like all regenerations back to back.
Yeah.
And coming right after Time in the Rani.
Yeah.
Like Time in the Rani, the most garish thing you've ever seen in your life, with the most garish music and the just like green colour all over his face. Sylvester McCoy wearing a wig turning into himself with and the Rani coming in being all hammy.
Yeah.
And
leave the girl.
Rainbow.
It's the man I want.
And then like the rainbow TARDIS materialization with the pink sky. The most weird disco garish thing you've ever seen, going from that to the TV movie, where it's this.
And even then, like, obviously, contextually in the story, it's so much more powerful. But the 9th Doctor's regeneration, look next to the 8th Doctor's regeneration, looks kind of cheap.
Yeah, it does, right?
And that's a testament to the production design of the TV movie. And I love that, how you can hear the crunching of his bones changing shape. Oh. It's disgusting.
And I love Sylvester McCoy obviously being it's so perfect. It's so perfect. McCoy being the panto actor he is.
Yeah.
Like he's out of all the actors to play the Doctor, he has the weirdest history in his acting career before the show.
Yeah, it was a lot of clowning
and like when you look up clips of what he did before, it's the most weird shit
hammering a nail into
ever. It's the weirdest shit ever.
Spoons.
And the fact that ties into his regeneration scene where he can mess up his face like that when he's regenerating, it's just perfect.
Yeah. Crunching bones.
TV movie is a happy accident.
It is. Not perfect, and I'm sure we'll reveal it someday.
Hell no, but it's a happy accident.
Yes.
And I like it.
I do too.
Yeah.
But yes, back onto The Haunting of Villa.
Yes. The music by Sega Nakanola.
Really good. There was a hint of what we would learn would be the Cyberman theme, which is just this really metallic. It sounded like stomping of metal, and it's really good. I do miss them. Womp, 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 womp. I do miss the Murray Gold stuff.
Though to be fair, I haven't seen that in a while. But what I miss, because I watched Earthshock recently. And Attack of the Cybermen.
Yeah.
So I was I was missing. All the Cybermen themes are fantastic.
But Sega Nakanola's in this the lone Cyberman theme, but what we would later learn was the general Cyberman theme. It's really good.
Yeah, I think it was important for him to make his own version.
Absolutely. I mean, the Master's got his own theme as well, which is really good.
And because throughout the eras, the Cybermen have had a different theme when they've evolved, and that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Because the '60s one as well. That was beautiful.
Oh, I love that. But the other pieces of music throughout, I can't name specific scenes, but just what Sega Nakanola, and we've said this so many times and we'll say it again, he's so good at matching the, again, I've said it like 18 times, but the atmosphere of the episode. Yeah. He's so good at complementing that without taking it over.
Yes.
And just being a part of the environment, a part of the design.
I mean this in the kindest way, because we love Murray Gold, but I mean this in the kindest way in the fact that he is kind of the anti-Murray Gold in a way.
Yeah, because Murray Gold's scores, I mean, as you all know, like a very big and very bombastic and so memorable and so touching and so powerful.
And even there are points where it's overpowering.
Yeah, and it can. The flaw with Murray Gold, at least the way it's used sometimes, is that it can be overpowering. Yeah. Whereas Sega Nakanola
I had that recently with I watched the Angel two-parter from Series 5.
Yeah.
And the I Am the Doctor theme quite a lot of the time invades the story. Yeah. And it sort of breaks the horror element of it.
And you compare that to when it's first heard in
11th Hour, where it's much more appropriate there, obviously. But when it's used in the Time of Angels, it feels so overbearing that it almost spoils the moment.
Yeah.
It's quite loud, whereas with Akinola, he's kind of the opposite, where a lot of his music goes quite unnoticed, but when you get an episode like this that has such a rich atmosphere, it just complements it.
Yeah, it just works beautifully. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Though I've been re-listening to some of Sega Nakanola Series 11, and also, obviously, when we've been reviewing these episodes, and I think he's had some bangers.
Yeah, oh god, yeah.
There's one from It Takes You Away called Made a New Friend, and that theme is beautiful.
And I loved the music he did for Ruth, pre-finding out that she... And the music that played when she broke the seal and realised who she was.
I loved the music, and I can't wait to Series 12, because it comes out in April, the Series 12 get the soundtrack. I love the theme that plays in Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror during the climax where he gets out his bass guitar.
Yes,
that was awesome. And I can't wait to talk about Sega Nakanola in a future review that I will not talk about yet.
Yeah. Oh god, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, he was good in this one.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. This, I mean, on a production level, this was just an all-round hit, I think.
For sure.
Yeah. Are we done talking about all that stuff?
I think so.
All right. The viewership was 3.8 million.
That's up, isn't it? Because wasn't it like 3.2?
No. I'll look at Can You Hear Me and check.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure about this. Can You Hear Me was also 3.8, so it's the same.
That's good.
It's the same. Yeah, it's still fine.
Yeah.
People may think that's Dangerous Zone. I think it's still fine.
And you can, again, it's apples and oranges. You cannot compare it to the David Tennant era. A, because the David Tennant era was more in the public zeitgeist, just generally. But B, because there are so many more alternative options to standard television
The
now.
fact that they pulled 10 million for The Woman Who Fell to Earth is astounding.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's more impressive than Rose getting 10 million.
For sure. Without question.
That was a completely unexpected miracle that happened.
Yeah, and so where it's at now is really healthy. It's really only if it goes under 1 million, then the BBC might be like, nah. But because there's, again, streaming services and so many other ways to watch it, it's ratings, whatever.
But I do like to keep count of them anyway.
Yeah, it's just interesting.
It's
interesting statistics, but it's...
I mean, the lowest watched episode of the first 8 series was The Satan Pit, and that's one of my absolute favourites.
Yeah. So it never denotes quality. So yeah.
Though it does... With Classic Who, the most watched is City of Death. which is fantastic. Though the least watched is Battlefield, and that's also fantastic.
Yeah.
So
Battlefield's so... Oh, I love Battlefield.
love it. Oh, it's so bizarre.
Yeah.
Fucking... If we ever do a video about guest cast members, Jean Marsh has to be in it.
Yeah.
Because she's been in it 3 times, and every time she's been in the show, she was brilliant. She played Joanna in The Crusade.
Yep.
She played Sarah Kingdom in The Daleks' Master Plan, and she played Morgaine in Battlefield, and she was brilliant in all 3.
Yeah.
Phenomenal actress. What I love about Battlefield as well is it's a reuniting of Sarah Kingdom and Brett Vian, because Nicholas Courtney was in Daleks' Master Plan as well.
That's right. Oh god, so good. What else is there? Viewership, after viewership? What do we normally do after viewership?
We do the conclusion and rating out of 10, and you're going to go first.
Okay. Alright. It's so good. Both on a personal level, because it's a dream episode that I've always wanted to see, and it had it in spades. Atmosphere, great. Direction, great. Editing, great. Sound design, great. Acting, great. Writing, great. Villain, great. Doctor, great. Everything, great. So good. Firing on cylinders. It was funny when it needed to be, dramatic when it needed to be. Tied it all together at the end with that brilliant little reworking of that Byron poem to be about the Doctor. She was the sky, or whatever it is. And it really, really worked. And I really loved it. A couple things could have been expanded on, but that's not a fault of the episode. That's just... It is what it is. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
Girl in the Fireplace tier right here.
Yeah, it is,
wow.
frankly. As a standalone episode, it just... I've struggled to find flaws with it, and as y'all know, I don't really give 10s out unless it's something that there has to be a certain something special to get it over that line beyond it just being a really good episode that I don't really have any
because
flaws
there are elements of this episode that were good but not great. Like for example, some of the companions, they were fine, but if the companions were as great as, say, the direction of the music,
it would probably easily.
and the side cast and just everything's firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, I mean, aggregators and rankings and ratings, whatever. Just listen to what we say and you know how we feel. But if I have to rank it, 9 out of 10.
Yeah. That's very high praise.
Yeah.
From you especially, because you're quite harsh on this show.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. The Haunting of Villa Diodati is my favourite episode from Jodie's era. It was gothic. It told a story about Frankenstein and the Sidemen together, which is a match made in heaven. Jodie was strong, as were the companions. They filled their roles fine, and there was good comedy in it. The costumes are brilliant. The direction was brilliant. The music was brilliant. The Lone Sideman had a great setup. In a lot of ways, this is kind of the Utopia of the series. Not quite as strong as Utopia, because that's near impossible. That was a very magical time. But it was strong. Maxine Alderton as a writer was very strong. And I cannot wait to see what she does next series. That being said, it doesn't quite achieve for me enough for me to put it in the top tier.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't quite have enough of that magic quality to it. It doesn't quite hit all the notes it needs to for me to put it right up there with my favourites. But it is a very strong 8.5 out of 10. Well done. Well done. It was the happiest I'd been watching Doctor Who since the Series 10 finale. And
agreed.
Yeah. I'll never forget that day. Never forget that day. Sitting at Warner Brothers, editing the Block NZ. Right, sick of that shite I was by that point. But I'd finished my work for the day, and I turned on the Doctor Falls, and I watched it from start to end at work, just in awe of it.
It's just so good.
Yeah. So this is the happiest I've been watching Doctor Who since that point. So well done, Chibnall. You finally...
Another Cyberman story.
Yeah, there you go.
Because they're great, Jake. Anyway, yes, that's good. That's us.
Yeah.
That's...
Next time, Ascension of the Cybermen, part 1 of the 2-part finale.
Woo!
All of you know what I sort of think of it because I was on Lord Slar's panel discussion for that episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also on the one for the finale as well. So they all know what I think.
Mm-hmm.
They all know what Callum thinks.
Mm-hmm.
All of his bloody controversy he's had this year. Poor guy. But I'm happy that he went in confident and basically said, I'm going to say whatever I fucking want because it's my channel.
Yeah, you do you, man.
But we have no idea what you think, and you're not going to reveal anything until we get to those videos. That'll be the tantalizing mystery. Hopefully we get to film those videos, and hopefully coronavirus doesn't stop us from doing so.
We'll wait and see.
We'll have to wait.
Because if one of us has to self-isolate, then it's going to be a long wait. But we'll see.
We'll see.
It's you. Oh, no.
So yeah, next time is Ascension of the Cybermen. After that will be the Timeless Children. Then a recap and episode ranking of the Series 12. Hopefully not as short as the Series 11 one. And then a ranking of the series from 1 to 12. A re-ranking, a reshuffling. That one's going to be interesting. Following that, the Faceless Ones. That DVD should be arriving soon. Hopefully I'm allowed to get it and I'm not isolated.
Yeah.
The Time Monster as well, for Worst of Classico. I thought you liked that one.
I do, but it's just Worst of Classico.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Ugh, there's a few on there I'm dreading. And yeah, that's all stuff we got coming up. So see you next time for Ascension of the Cybermen.